So you might have heard some of the news about Matt Gaetz. Now, Matt Gaetz, Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida, a ally of former President Donald Trump, is being investigated by the Justice Department over whether he had a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old and paid for her to travel with him, according to 3 people briefed in the matter. So already, here we go. Not good. Investigators are examining whether Mr. Gaetz violated federal sex trafficking laws. A variety of federal statutes make it illegal to induce someone under 18 to travel over state lines to engage in sex in exchange for money or something of value. The Justice Department regularly prosecutes cases, and offenders often receive severe sentences. Oh boy. Wow. Hey, QAnon. Are you guys looking for examples of people having sex with underage minors? This might be a good idea. You might want to check out Florida. Seems to be some stuff happening there. Fascinating. All right, so it turns out might have been in front of you the whole time. Allegedly, of course. Now, I'm actually more surprised this didn't have anything to do with his live-in son, Nestor. Remember that story? That was weird. Apparently, a kid had been living with Matt Gaetz since he was 12. And Gaetz was dating his sister. It's a very strange story. It's very weird. There's a lot of weird moving parts to this. Okay. Now, according to a report, it was not clear how Mr. Gaetz had met the 17-year-old girl, believed to be 17 at the encounters. He was 36 at the time. That was about 2 years ago, where the investigators are scrutinizing, according to 2 of the people. The investigation was opened in the final months of the Trump administration, which is a very interesting case, because here it is. It's not coming from the Biden administration. No. This is a Trump administration investigation started by William Barr. And Trump was, of course, told about this. He and other advisors, people in the inner circle, were told about this investigation. So it's very, very interesting here. All right. Now, the investigation, as I said, was opened in the final months of the Trump administration under William Barr. Given Gaetz' national profile, senior Justice Department officials in Washington, including some appointed by Trump, were notified of the investigation. Now, how did this start? What is going on here? 3 people said that in the examination of Mr. Gaetz, now 38, as part of a broader investigation into a political ally of his, a local official in Florida named Joel Greenberg. Greenberg, of course, was the target of an investigation and who was actually indicted last summer on an array of different charges, including sex trafficking of a child, financially supporting people in exchange for sex, at least one of whom was, again, underage. Mr. Greenberg, who has since resigned his post as a tax collector in Seminole County, north of Orlando, visited the White House with Mr. Gaetz back in 2019, according to a photograph Mr. Greenberg posted on Twitter. No charges have been brought against Mr. Gaetz, and the extent of his criminal exposure is so far unclear, but again, fascinating, and the denials, of course, are hilarious. Mr. Gaetz responded to the allegations in an interview, saying that lawyers had been in touch with the Justice Department, and they were told that he was the subject, not the target, because if you were the target, of course, that means that they already had enough stuff to go after you, okay, as the target. So right now, they're looking into him, and they're looking into this stuff. Mr. Gaetz said this in the interview: "I only know that it has to do with women. I have a suspicion that someone is trying to recategorize my generosity to ex-girlfriends as something more untoward. I was so nice to my ex-girlfriends. I can't believe they'd turn around and do me like this. Oh my God. What's going on?" Gaetz called the investigation as part of an elaborate scheme involving false sex allegations to extort him and his family for $25 million. He said that his father, Don, had been cooperating with the FBI and wearing a wire, which, again, if you're wearing a wire, you don't really have to go out and tell everybody. Oh, yeah, my dad was wearing a wire during this investigation that was ongoing. Oops. Yeah, are you sure you're supposed to divulge that information? But he says, oh, the New York Times ruined it for me. So of course I have to go out and I have to talk about this publicly because the New York Times and the Biden administration, of course, they get Biden involved in this as well. Gaetz claimed that the disclosure of sex trafficking inquiry was intended to thwart an investigation into an extortion plot. In a second interview later Tuesday, the congressman said he had no plans to resign his House seat, denied that he had relationships with minors. It's verifiably false that I have traveled with a 17-year-old woman. 17-year-olds aren't women. They're technically minors, technically children. Okay. Hey, I'm not saying that. That's Florida law. Florida law says that the age of consent is 18. Okay. So now the Times also notes that it's unclear how investigators in the Greenberg case began examining Mr. Gaetz' conduct. More details, of course, will come out against that, or I'm sorry about that. Last June, federal prosecutors secured an indictment against Mr. Greenberg, accusing him of stalking a political rival. Greenberg also is connected with Roger Stone, although, again, we don't have any information on how they're connected with, he's connected with Gaetz or Stone. All I know is that Greenberg was a political ally of Mr. Gaetz. Again, you had that selfie where in 2017 he tweeted, "Great catching up." So the following year, Mr. Gaetz expressed support for Greenberg's successful bid for local office, predicting that he would someday make a great member of Congress. Well, that didn't turn out. Poorly aged right there. Poorly aged. That did not work out. However, federal authorities seized Mr. Greenberg's phone and laptop after the stalking accusations and then discovered evidence that Mr. Greenberg, whose job responsibilities included issuing licenses, was creating fake IDs for himself and a teenage girl, and was experimenting with holograms used on permits for concealed firearms, according to court documents. Jesus. Months later, he was indicted on sex trafficking charges. Greenberg targeted a girl who was between 14 and 17-year-olds, saying that he recruited, or I should say groomed, and solicited her for sex acts in exchange for unspecified perks or favors. Greenberg was connected, of course, with allies of Trump, Gaetz, Roger Stone, etc. According to the Orlando Sentinel, Mr. Greenberg posted a photograph of himself on social media with Milo Yiannopoulos, who now says he is cured of the gay. I don't know if you know that update. Milo is back and he is saying, "I'm no longer gay. Now I have the live-in ex-boyfriend who's now just my friend." Right. Of course. Yeah. So now all of this is there's a lot of moving parts to this story. All right. A lot of moving parts to this story, a lot of different things that are going on simultaneously. And Matt Gaetz appears to be involved. Again, he says, "I'm not involved. This didn't happen." No, this is an elaborate plot to take me down. It's the liberals. It's their fault. Sure. But it is strange the Trump administration started this investigation as a result of looking into Greenberg. And so that's incredibly interesting. I don't entirely know what to make of it, since we still need more information, more facts to come out about this. But if Matt Gaetz really was messing around with underage girls, not good. Very bad. If true, what a sick person, sick guy. And it would fit. It would fit him. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.